Okay, class, let's just really emphasize the conclusions we can make when we see a similarity statement. So notice there's no pictures, which is a little intimidating sometimes. So we're just going to be giving clues like this similarity statement right here, and we have to know what's congruent and what's proportional. So it's just like playing the match game. So A and J are in the first spot. What does that mean? Well, that means that angle A is congruent to angle J. Well, the next two letters are corresponding as well. That's B and K. Well, if B and K are in the second position, that means angle B and angle K are congruent. Right now, we don't even know what angle B is or K, but we definitely know if they are similar, then they are congruent. And the same for C and L. C and L are definitely going to be congruent because of this similarity statement. So this is like a key that tells us how all the letters match up without a picture. The same is true for the sides. So notice the first two letters over here are A, B. Well, the first two letters over here are JK. So write that down. AB over JK is proportional. We're not saying AB and JK are congruent. Now sides are proportional. So what does that mean? We need ratios that are congruent to each other. So notice AB and JK, I write that as a ratio. That's going to be proportional to BC all over KL. And then the last is true. CA is going to be CA over LJ. That is going to be proportional to those other groups of sides as well. So the second set is a little confusing because they're not equal like they are sides, angles in here. Sides are what we call proportional. That's how we have to write them as fractions in here, as ratios, and then we set them equal to each other. But please, please, please note how all the letters have to match up. Let's do another problem, but this one is going to deal with what? It's going to do with a four-sided shape, any quadrilaterals. And by the way, this works for quadrilaterals or pentagons or heptagons or 20gons. These similarity statements are going to be written, and you have to know how to interpret them. That's what we're doing right now. What conclusions are we making? So once again, it's like the match game. A and F are in the first position, so what can we conclude? Angle F and angle F, excuse me, angle A and angle F are congruent. The next one is B and G, so there we go. B and G are congruent. Those are angle B and angle G are congruent. And the same for C and H and D and I. All those groups or angles are congruent. We are not saying that A, B, C, D are equal. No, it's the matching angles, the corresponding matching angles. Those are the ones that are congruent. And the same is true for the sides, just like the previous example. Notice the first two letters over here are AB, and the first two letters over here are FG. So we write that as a ratio. That ratio is going to be congruent to the next two sides, BC and GH, right there. And the same is true for the third set of sides and the fourth set of sides. All those sets of sides are called corresponding sides. And those corresponding sides are what we call proportional. This group of sides is proportional to that group of sides right there. So here's an example, like, if I had like 2 over 1 and 6 over, what number would that be? Notice the scale factor here was 3. The scale factor over here better be 3. So that's what's going on here. And those are things that we talked about in the previous lesson. Notice we can verify that 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 6 is 6. Those are proportional. And we got one other problem down here. And this is one that does have a diagram. And please note, all the diagrams so far have been very easy to, in the previous video, very easy because what I call those easy diagrams is copy paste. So we copy, we paste. It hasn't been rotated, it hasn't been flipped over, it hasn't been turned upside down or inside out. But this one over here is been somehow rotated or flipped over, and we have to really notice the integrity of these letters, and that's going to really paint the picture of how this color is coming to light. So don't just look at this diagram and go, ooh, N and S match up. No, they don't. How do I know that? Because I can look at the similarity statement and go, ooh, N matches up with U. That's why I've color-coded U and N to be the same exact color. The next two letters are P and V. Well, that's why P and V are getting the same exact color. Color is the easiest way I have found to keep track of the more difficult diagrams when we start turning and flipping and overlapping and inside out and on top of each other. And it's going to get crazy with the pictures. Using color is a great, great strategy. The next two letters are Q and S. So there we go. I've color coded them. Q and S, those two angles are going to be congruent. And the last set of angles are R and T. So R and T, those are the same color. So I know angle R is congruent to angle T. But what about all the sides? Well, all you have to do is, well, you can look at the diagram if you want, but I think looking at the similarity statement is much easier to do. I would write NP over UV. That's going to be equal to PQ all over what? VS. That's going to be congruent to QR all over ST, and that's going to be congruent to RN all over TV. So here are the four ratios that are always going to be congruent to each other if we know the polygons are similar. So this is what we call sides being proportional. So hopefully it's becoming a little clearer. Let's check out some more information in the next video.